Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we are going to be talking all about Sonlight Language Arts Level 4. I'm going to be chatting through the level because honestly, I think it's one of the levels that is easily confused. Like, do your kids even need it? When should they use level 4? We're going to chat through all of that, but I'm also going to flip the camera around and give you an in-depth view of the instructor's guide so you can get an idea of the expectations of the program on your kiddo, as well as go through all of the readers. You guys, the readers are really fun in level 4. Even if you don't get the language arts, I think the readers are well worth your time. But anyway, let's just hop in so you can get a really good feel for Sonlight Language Arts Level 4. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new. Welcome back if you've been coming for a while. So like I said, we are going to be chatting through Sonlight Level 4 Language Arts today. That's the plan. But before we get into all of that, I do need to make the quick disclaimer that Sonlight did send me all of these materials in exchange for my honest review and opinion, which is what I am providing in today's video. So again, thank you to Sonlight. And if you want to check out Sonlight, feel free to use the affiliate link I have below because it gets you $10 off, which is always good. But let's just hop in because I have a lot to share with you. But let's start with kind of broadly speaking, when would you want to use Sonlight Language Arts Level 4? So their website and the program says it's geared for, fourth grade, but it says ages 7 to 9 on the instructor's guide. And Sonlight always has 3 weeks of downloadable samples. So if you want to check this out, please do that. I'm going to show you a number of weeks here, and I'm going to show you some that aren't the first 3 so that you can kind of get a feeling for how the program progresses. But I do want to mention here kind of what it covers. I think that's important. I'd say Sonlight Language Arts is an all-inclusive language arts curriculum. You can just use the language arts from Sonlight. It is enough. You can definitely pick and choose and switch some things out if that fits your family better, but it is enough in and of itself. And for level 4, there is included a spelling program. So actually this is the last level where spelling is included. Like, there's a spelling list. There's some ideas for what to do on like day 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the week. And those spelling words weave into things like the phonics, because there is an optional phonics workbook as well as a vocabulary book that are optional. But what actually comes in the program is spelling, like I said. Then there's the readers, which I will be showing you the readers and discussion questions that go with the readers. And then there is the creative expression section, which I think is really the meat of the program, if you will. That's where you will find your copywork as well as your copywork application, which tends to be grammar and sentence structure and things like that. And then that's where you'll find your creative expression, where there's like brainstorming sessions and paragraph writing and instructions for all of that. And so those are the things that are included. And then, like I said, there's some optional suggestions like handwriting, vocabulary, and a phonics workbook. So those are the components. But I did mention in my intro the fact that I feel like this is one of the more confusing levels, or at least it was for me. Maybe it's not for other people, but let me share a little bit about why I thought it was confusing. And I think it's because it is right on the border between the programs that are linked into the History Bible literature and then the language arts programs that are not. And the reason is it's because by the time they get through level 4, if they are going to use it, that's when they really become more proficient with reading. And if they jump into language arts level D, those readers are more historical, they tie into the history, and it's more appropriate there. I think the idea is by that time, most kiddos are at a certain level and that they can handle those bigger chapter books when they get into language arts D. But language arts 4 is a unique level because from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong if you know differently, but from what I understand, language arts level 4 and language arts D are very comparable in content, like what is being taught. Now they're a little different, mind you, because by the time it goes into the letters, into D, there's no longer an in-program spelling list. At that point, then they recommend using All About Spelling or Spelling UC to supplement spelling into the program. But any of the numbers do include a spelling program. The other difference between 4 and D is that 4 has copywork and D has dictation. So those are important distinctions in my brain because I feel like the other things you're working on more, the paragraphs and the grammar, I feel like that's comparable, or from what I understand, that's more comparable. So when do you use language arts 4? So I would say you would use it in the case of when you are combining your kids. So if you're, say, combining your kids for history, Bible, and literature, and you have an older child and a younger child, and the younger child is not ready for HBLD and Language Arts D yet, so you're kind of progressing a little slower because of that younger child, your older child might need a tougher language arts, right? And so they could go into level 4 where the chapter books are bigger and things like that, and that will help them as they're progressing through their language arts, and they will still have adequate material for their age. But then at the same time, you can also use level 4 if, say, you have, again, a younger child, but this time level 4 is for the younger child, and say the two kids are doing level D together, but that younger kiddo is not quite ready for like dictation, and maybe having that extra phonics practice and the built-in spelling lists that kind of associate with that phonics is really good for that younger kiddo, because you don't have to match it. Yes, it's kind of wonderful and beautiful, and I think all Sonlight moms and moms in general are kind of striving for that idea, that you can hook your history, Bible, literature with your language arts. But honestly, from what I've seen with samples and heard from different mentors talking, is you don't have to. It's wonderful if it happens, but it's not like a make or break situation. So those are kind of the reasons you might end up with a level 4, because kiddos can also move from Sonlight Language Arts level 3 straight into Language Arts D. Like, they don't have to stop at level 4. Does that make sense? I hope that does. That's why I feel like this was a program I really wanted to highlight, because it was a program I was honestly confused if we would need it, and we're actually going to be using it twice, or I'm going to be using it for both of those reasons I gave. This year I'm using it for my older kiddo because we're still in HBLC, but next year we're going to be in HBLD, and I'm using it for my second born because I don't think she'll be ready for Language Arts D. And now I could adjust level D for her, but I think this comes down to the personality of the teacher. I just don't like to adjust things all that much, and so I'd rather just use level 4 with her while she's combined into HBLD with her brother. So that's a little bit about level 4. And so now I'm going to just kind of take you into it, because if you clicked on this video, obviously you're interested in Sonlight Language Arts level 4. And so let's flip the camera around and I'll just kind of take you through all the material, especially the readers, because I mean, it's one thing to see the readers on a list, but it's another to kind of have me flip through them. I think flipping through and seeing the inside of books is really, really helpful. So let's do that. Let's just flip around and take a look at this program. Hey everybody, so I flipped our camera around, and now we're going to look more in detail at level 4. I'm so excited to share it with you guys. Like I said, it's geared for ages 7 to 9, grade 4. And so let's just jump in. So I'm going to be sharing first a look at the instructor's guide. So let's zoom in a bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I have a couple weeks to share with you today. So I'm starting with week 14. It's just for no particular reason, other than just to give you a few more examples than what you see from the samples online. But like I said, there are a few things that as you're looking at the subjects down the side here, there are the ones that are in bold that are part of the curriculum, and then there's ones that are grayed out a bit that are more optional. And those optional ones being MCP Phonics Level D, Handwriting Without Tears, as well as Wordly Wise C. And you can see that it is assigned out for you, so you know kind of what pages you're using. And what I really do like is the MCP Phonics coincides with your spelling words and your spelling list, so it all kind of works together. So, but those are technically optional, and they are sold separately from the Language Arts 4 program. But then you come down here and you have two other things that are in bold, and that's your readers. So here's your assignment for your readers. For this week, the reader that's assigned is Socks, and you can see which chapters they're reading, and you will also be given discussion questions for each book. And I don't have those with me, but those come with your guide when it's shipped to you. So make sure you know where those are, because those are really helpful. So that's the assignment for the week. And then here's your creative expression. Again, this is part of the program. It has copywork application, and then it has your 2 weeks. Here's your brainstorming day, and then the paragraph writing day typically. Then at the bottom, it does have an overview, which is pretty helpful because it will tell you what is being worked on in phonics, as well as the spelling activity, which in this case was rhyming patterns. and the long O consonant blends like old and things like that, as well as you get more information on your creative expression. So what's being talked about in the copy work, so adjectives, comparatives, superlatives, things like that, and then it gives you a little bit more as to what the paragraph is. So these are kind of nice to flip through when you're looking at the upcoming week. But let's flip to more details. So you flip it over and this gives you your instructions for spelling. First, everything in these little red boxes are the lesson. This can be read directly to the child. It can be paraphrased, all sorts of things. I've done both and it has really worked out. Like for instance, if you would say something like, this week your spelling words will use one of 4 different consonant blends. When a word ends with, and you'll write, it says to write on the board these consonant blend endings. And then it goes through the lesson. And then you also have your rule up here and the words. So these are your, typically it's 10 words. And you'll see in week 1's instructor's guide more details on how to run the spelling, because right here all it says is rule and write. Like you'll learn the rule and you'll write down the words, and then you'll do a pre-test, then you'll do a check, and then you'll do a post-test. What all of that means is detailed in the instructor's guide for week 1. It's not every week. Every week just gives you your lesson. And then what is listed next is these grayed out boxes. It's the answer keys for those optional workbooks, such as MCP Phonics or Wordly Wise, things like that. And then it gets into your creative expression. And so you will note that there is nothing on these sheets that has to do with your readers, or at least when you flip the page over, you're not going to get information on readers because those questions are found back in the appendix of your instructor's guide. So it jumps right to creative expression, starting with what's called an optional copywork. So you can always use that optional copywork if, say, your kid is just fighting with you. They really don't want to do the paragraph that week. You'll be like, fine, let's just make sure you have something of quality to write and copy. But for instance, this is the actual copywork assignment. So this is from their activity sheets, the student activity sheets, which I will show you more about in a second. But here is the day 1 of creative expression is for them to copy the copywork. And then day 2 is your copywork application. Like I talked about, it was adjectives like comparatives and superlatives. And in this case, you can see all of the instruction that is given to you. It's actually quite a bit of instruction here. There's like 2-ish columns of instruction. Like you're going to write these sentences on the board. You're going to go through this. You're going to write this chart on the board. And you're going to teach these things. But then what's great is they do have some practice time. So like I mentioned, there's not a lot of workbook activities for Sonlight Language Arts, but what is used is actually, I feel like, more effective and more useful. So then you'd come to the student's activity sheet, and this is them. After you went through those 2 columns of instructions and worked with them on the board, they would work on their activity sheet here, and they could read the instructions, or you could work on it with them. It really just depends on the age of your kid and how much you are scribing and working with them. But you can see some of the example activities here of like identifying each adjective, writing a C, D, or S based on which type of adjective it is, write the correct form here, and then some extra review. So you can see there is some worksheets, but that's just the 1 day of grammar, if you will, because then it moves on in both your instructor guide and your activity sheets to the next section, which is the day 3, which is typically a brainstorm day for the paragraph. In this case, it's a paragraph to prepare to write a description of a friend. And again, you could read this out loud to them. And then it says here for your child to work on the graphic organizer found on their activity sheet, which is this one right here where it's a person and there's some questions they can fill out and start to brainstorm about the person that they are going to be highlighting their talents and things like that. And then down here it says, on your own paper, write a description of your friend's interests and unique abilities. This is great because they can do it on a separate paper or they can type it, which is usually kind of what my kiddos have done, because that's right here, day 4. And here there's a little bit more for you to read, but basically it's having them write the paragraph they were brainstorming about the day before. What I do love is it does have this rubric here. And I think this is really helpful. What I think it's really helpful for and how I tend to use the rubric is I go through the lines with my child. I'm like, okay, the expectations here this week is you're going to be focusing on making sure you introduce the person well, making sure you introduce a detailed description of their appearance, of their personality, as well as using language efficiently so you can create a very clear mental image for your reader. So just think about your reader and how they would be reading your paragraph, as well as include a conclusion statement. And then it does have some mechanics down here, which I sometimes use, I sometimes don't, because my current kiddo is not the best at spelling and that will discourage him. So we don't worry too much about spelling. But if your student is a good speller, that is a different story. You could maybe use that more as an assessment tool. And then they always do have an example paragraph. Sometimes I think these paragraphs are a little bit advanced, but other times I don't. I think they're more advanced in some of the younger levels, but I feel like for level 4, these are pretty good paragraphs. And I'll even sometimes read it out loud to my student just to help them kind of see how a paragraph talking about their talented friend would sound. And that could help kind of get their juices flowing, if that makes sense. So that is really that first week. So let me take you through another week. I'll take you through quicker because it's really set up very similarly. But this is week 30. And in this case, they are working on letter combinations like IE says I in pie or E in chief, as well as using italics and underlines and reviewing contractions. And in this case, their writing assignment is so fun. It's writing a screenplay based on a scene from a book. And this works on critical thinking. And so I just love that idea. And so I don't feel like I need to totally go through this all again. It's set up very similar. And here is the activity sheet. That's about how long of the passage it is. And again, these copywork passages come from their readers, which they just enjoy. My kids enjoy reading something and recognizing it. And then here's an example of what they're doing for their copywork down through here. So you can see there's a decent amount for level 4. And then here's where they start brainstorming the screenplay, the title of the book, what scenes they're going to be using, and then they'll be writing it the next day. And for instance, it'll be something like this, a frog and toad, where they'll be like frog, toad, like what they're saying, which I just think is a fun, more unique writing assignment. And so I love that there are assignments such as those in the program as well. All right, so that was more of the instructor's guide. Now I'm going to take you through the books. Oh, the books are great. And so these are in no particular order because the order is actually proprietary information, so I didn't want to include that, but I do want to show you all the books. There are classics, so The Whipping Boy, and this is not a very big book. It still has some good pictures. And so this is a wonderful book. It's actually one of the smaller ones for the year. And then there's this book, Frindle, which we just read, and Andrew Clements as one of our read alouds for Level C this year. So it's been great. We really like his writing. So I'm excited that my kiddos are going to also be able to read one of his books for themselves. And so that's what Frindle looks like. It's a decent sized chapter book. And then this one's called The Toothpaste Millionaire. I think this looks really cool, or sounds kind of about this kid entrepreneur, I believe. And it talks a little bit about him setting up his own business. There's the math. I just think it sounds really fun. So again, another little chapter book. This one's really small, so this will be a very fast reader, but it's called McBroom's Wonderful 1-Acre Farm. So that'll just be fun. I like that it doesn't always have to be big books, because some of these ones are really big, like Misty of Shintig and The Mustangs of the Wild Spirit of the West. These are much larger books and much smaller font. But if you have a horse lover in your family, these are going to be so great. I love it. But I do like that they're both included, like that they're part of a series. I'm just assuming they're part of a series. And I like that because my kids love series. And then this one's called A Llama in the Family. And so this will be fun. I've never heard of this book. But there are so many books I've never heard of in the Sonlight program. And then we read it and I'm like, this is a fantastic book. I'm so glad it was part of the program, even though I had no idea until it came up on our list. And then this book, I'm so excited. My son's probably most excited about this book this upcoming year. This is called Escape from Mr. Limoncello's Library. It's a pretty popular book. It's one of the bigger chapter books, so I'm guessing it's near the end of the year, but maybe it's about midway. And it doesn't have tiny font, but it's going to take a while for him to read it. But I think he'll really like reading these because he's reading more books about this size currently. So, and then there's this, the Lumber Camp Library. So that's a small one. And then there's this one, which he has read. It's Marco Polo. So this is part of the Junior Worlds Explorers. So this is a fast read because it's very large print, but it's got kind of that historical narrative, which is just really fun. So we got to learn about a person in history. And then this one's called Emily's Runaway Imagination. It's a Beverly Cleary. It's a little bit bigger, but I'm excited to see what this one's about. And I do try to read these ahead of time to keep ahead of my kiddos. I just enjoy it. It makes for better conversations. Do you need to? No, by no means. Like I said, there's like discussion questions in the appendix that will help in teaching these books. But here's Socks, another Beverly Cleary. This one's the one that was in week 14. Now you know that, but this is great. I think I remember reading this as a kid, so I'm excited my kids will get this. I definitely had some Encyclopedia Brown books, Boy Detective. My kids do love detective books, and it's the first in the series. And so if they like it, we can get some more, which I'm always a big fan of, first in the series. And then these ones, I love these books. I mean, we've done the read aloud of Mouse on the Motorcycle, and so these kind of finish that. It's more Beverly Cleary. This is Ralph S. Mouse and Henry and Ribsy. And so these are great. So just a little flip through there. And same here, I like the new cover designs. And then here's The Children of Noisy Village, which we're a big fan of these books. I think we read aloud last year in Level B, the second book in this series. This is the first book, but it really doesn't matter. They're not important. It just really follows these kids in this village in Sweden, and my kids love these stories. They're definitely older books, but that still just the antics the kids get up to are very relatable for children. So these are fantastic stories. So those are the wonderful readers your kiddo would read as they're going through Sonlight's Level 4 Language Arts. And you guys, this is what drew me to Sonlight. This is what has kept me in Sonlight. But I also do really appreciate those other components I showed you, like the creative expression as well as the copy work and the spelling. We like the spelling for these younger ages as well. So let me flip the camera back around and I will end the video. Okay, friends, I hope that was helpful. I hope it was fun to see inside the program a bit, fun to kind of see how the instructor guide is set up, see how the assignments are laid out. What are some expectations? What are some of the useful resources that Sonlight provides in its language arts program? Because it is a little bit different. It's not as worksheet heavy as you saw. There are some worksheets, but it's not like daily worksheets working on grammar or anything like that. So it is a different setup, but we have really enjoyed it and it has really worked for us. But I would have to say the readers are my kids' favorite and probably my favorite part of the language arts program. And I love how it's all tied in together. So let me know below if you have any questions. I'd be happy to chat with you about them. I'd be happy to talk more about language arts because it can be a little bit confusing to know if this would be a good program for your kiddo or your homeschools. So you guys, that is what I have. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want to. But otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. All right, take care, guys. Bye.